Good morning, pretties. I am totally discombobulated today. I'm on the West Coast, so I'm super late. And I am in the teeny tiny bathroom of our Airbnb. I'm out here for a retreat with my mastermind buddies. It's our last one of the year. So a little bit out of my element right now. But I wanted to pop in with coffee chat today because I was thinking about my eyebrows the other day. Yes, I was thinking about my eyebrows. And I wanted to talk to you guys about my microblading experience. If you were around last year, you were with me through the whole saga. All 2 months of it. Yes, it takes 2 full months to get the whole way through. And so I thought it'd be interesting to update you guys on what I've thought about the experience now that I'm a year out from it and where I'm at with it right now. And if I would actually do it again, because I'm kind of having mixed feelings about it. So I'll link up the blog post that I did about my microblading experience because it really details every single step of the process. It was a lot more intense, I think, than I expected. And I have a pretty high pain tolerance. So anyway, so last year I decided I was going to give it a try. My business manager, Lauren, did it first. She dove in and hers turned out beautiful. As I'm getting older, I've noticed that my eyebrows are starting to thin, like from right here out. And I wanted to get something done about that. Okay, so I have wonky bangs going on today. I hit my head last night on the trunk of our rental car when I was getting my suitcase out. So I'm trying to hide that and my bangs are like, they're really bad today. But anyway, back to the eyebrows. So I decided that I was going to get them microbladed last year because they were getting thin on the ends. And I just was like sick of drawing them in every single day. I love my It Cosmetics Brow Power Pencil. But this was like an extra step in my makeup process. It was taking time every day that I just didn't want to do. So after I saw Lauren's great results with her brows, I'm like, gosh, I really want to do that. So I decided to go ahead and take the plunge. I did my research. This is something you definitely want to do your research on. Make sure that you go and follow whoever you're considering, like on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, so you can see examples of their work if this is something you decide that you want to do. That's exactly what I did. I found somebody local and I started watching her work and seeing, different people's eyebrows that she did. And I was like, wow, she does a beautiful job. I want to do this. So I got in contact with her. And the first step in the process was that she wanted me to go on Pinterest and find at least 3 to 4 different sets of eyebrows that I really, really liked and show her the pictures of those and then describe for each set what I liked most about them. Was it the shape? Was it the color? Was it the thickness, the fullness? When you're getting your brows done too, you'll notice that the hairs right here, you can either choose for them to go straight up or you can choose for them to go up and kind of over. So I had to make decisions like that. I didn't realize there were so many brow decisions to make whenever I did this, but anyway, I found the sets of brows that I really loved and took them in, and we just kind of looked for commonalities and talked about the specifics of each set of brows and what I liked most about them. So if you're not familiar with microblading at all, you have no idea what it is. It is basically a hand scraped, that sounds really bad, hand-drawn tattoo that you get on your brows. So the esthetician draws each individual hair in. She kind of carves it with a little tool and then puts dye down in there. And it creates these individual little hairs that look exactly like your real eyebrow hairs. So once we decided upon the shape and I was happy with that, then the longest part of the process was her initially drawing the first shape on my brows and deciding what that was going to look like. And she drew that on with a little bit of, I think, like an eye pencil. And there were tons of measurements taken to make sure everything was even and it was going to be exactly what I wanted. And when we finally got to that point where we agreed that that was the shape we were going with, then she started the numbing cream. So I wore lidocaine cream on my brows for about 30 minutes. And then she started the initial shape. And honestly, I think this was the hardest part. Whenever we did the initial outline of the brows, that was the most painful part for me. I felt a lot of it. I could feel the scraping. And I think the worst part was the sound. It was really cringy is a good word for it. But yeah, so that was probably the worst part. But once we got the outline done, then she was able to again go over that with a lidocaine cream, numb it a little bit more, and then dove in on actually drawing in the individual hairs on each of my brows. I want to say it took about 2-ish hours to do the first initial microblading process. The dye has to sit on there for a little while, and you get to choose what color dye you want to do too. So your esthetician will give you some guidance on that and tell you, according to your natural brow color, according to your hair color, what's going to work best for you. I chose a warm brown that was really kind of close to what my natural dark root hair color is. And I was very happy with that color. So next up comes the healing process. So it takes about 6 weeks for the healing process. And this was only phase 1 that I just described. So you go through this first process, then your brows get super, super dark. So if you guys remember Gene Shalit on the Today Show, like, yes, I'm a kid of the 70s. I remember his Critics Corner and his big eyebrows. Well, Craig, my husband, called me Gene Shalit after I got my brows done, because you have this moment where you've got these great big dark brows and you feel like everybody's just like staring at your brows for the first few days. So they get really, really dark. They start to scab over. This is totally normal. It's part of the process. You'll get different instructions for the aftercare. I've talked to a couple different people. There are different products that you might get prescribed to use, but I just used grapeseed oil on my brows, and I had to oil them and keep them moist, because the moisture is really part of the process. The less dry your scabs get, the better off you are. So you have a better result that way. So I put the grapeseed oil on, I think it was like 3 times a day. I had to carry it with me everywhere we went. The first day that you get it done, you've got to do it, you have to wipe them to keep the pus from happening, because that also gets a lot of scabbing that goes on. And if you're just tuning in, I'm talking about my eyebrows. I know it's like pus and scabbing, like what is she talking about? Microblading. So anyway, then I put the grapeseed oil on for a few days, and eventually the scabs start to kind of wear off, and you start to see what your brows are going to look like when they're done. So this is phase 1 of the process. Once you get completely healed from this, then you go back in for phase 2 of the process. And this is more like the refining part, where she looks at any areas that need to be filled in, or any shape that needs to be changed, or whatever. So I was thinking phase 2 of the process wasn't going to be as intense, I guess is a good word for it. And it wasn't exactly, but it was still pretty bad pain level wise. There was still a lot of scraping, and I felt a lot of it. I've talked to different people who have had this done before, and honestly, I think I felt it more than most people have. So if this is something you're considering, don't let my experience scare you. Talk to a variety of people, because I've had some people say, I barely felt it. The only thing that was kind of uncomfortable was hearing the sound of the scraping that was happening. So don't take my one experience to mean that that's exactly what's going to happen for you, because it could be totally different. But anyway, then after phase 2 of the process, we go through the healing phase again. Definitely not as intense. Didn't get the really big dark brows that went along with the first phase of the process. And I was loving my brows done within, a couple of weeks, and saving so much time in the mornings. Overall, it has been a huge time savings for me. But I will tell you a couple of things that have come up within the past year to update you on this. So number 1, I'll start with a benefit. Number 1 is that now whenever I go to get my eyebrows cleaned up, it's super easy. I don't ever have to worry about getting my eyebrows screwed up, because it doesn't matter how much they take off. You still have the tattoo microbladed under there. So even if you happen to get too much waxed off or threaded or whatever you get done to your brows, you don't have to worry about it, because it's not going to really make a big difference. So the cool thing about it though is that I usually just get my brows waxed when I get my nails done, and I tell them, I'm microbladed, and they just clean up above and below. Makes it super simple. I don't have to say, do this shape or do that. The shape is there, everything is there, so it's perfectly fine. So that's number 1, and that's been the biggest benefit, other than the fact that I don't have to draw my brows in every morning anymore. Number 2 is kind of not a benefit, but Something to be aware of, if you use any anti-aging products at all, anything with a retinoid in it, or vitamin C, you're gonna fade your brows faster. And I knew this going into it, but I use my Rock products, and right now I'm using Neutrogena product that has retin-A in it, or retinoids in it. And I have noticed that my brows are starting to fade on this area again, particularly on the ends. So I did not listen, and I'm paying the consequences, and I'm having to just use a little bit of brow powder to kind of fill them in again. Is it a big deal? No. Am I back to doing my brows again? Kind of. But I still think that it was totally worth it. And the thing about this is you can go back in and get touch-ups. They recommend you do it about every 2 years. I have a feeling I'm gonna get my touch-up earlier than that because of using these products and fading them a little on my own. You're supposed to stay out of the sun too, which I do a good job of, but just something to be aware of if you decide to do this, that sun and anti-aging products will fade the brows faster, and that you do have to get touch-ups with these. This isn't like a permanent tattoo that you would get on your skin, like a different kind of tattoo. This does tend to fade, so it's something that's not gonna be a one and done thing for you. If you have to go back in and get a fill on it, it's not as expensive the first time around. And I'm actually drawing a blank on what I spent on this. Oh gosh, shoot, I should have read the blog post before I did this because I have it in there. But I'm gonna link the blog post up here so you guys can go and check that out because it has everything you've ever wanted to know about microblading in there, plus a whole lot more. But you can look it up in your area. I know the pricing varies. I'm in Dallas, and it's you know, pretty common to have the same price point here wherever you go, but you'll have to look it up in your area to see if it's something that you would want to do. But yeah, so let me know if you've had microblading. What's your experience been? You know, tell me in the comments if if you had a lot of pain with yours, or if it was something that was a little bit simpler for you, or is this something that you would consider? Is it worth it to you to save the time and the effort of having to draw your brows on or use brow powder or whatever you're doing right now? I'm curious to find out what you think of this. So yeah, it's a little bit out there as far as beauty treatments and things go. It's kind of a newer thing, but I'm always willing to take one for the team and try it out, especially if it's going to be something that makes my life easier, even if it is a little bit painful at first. But anyway, thanks for tuning in this morning, guys. I will see you back here next Friday. Have an awesome weekend. Bye.